Hello. My name is Tom Bronack and I would like to spend a few minutes describing business continuity management. I hope you find this presentation informative and helpful. Business continuity management is composed of IT disaster recovery management, business location recovery, workplace safety and violence prevention, emergency management, crisis management, supply chain management, and site security, salvage, and restoration during and through a disaster event. A risk management analysis and business impact analysis, BIA, are used to identify and rate the impact of a disaster event. From the information obtained from these tasks, your company will be able to rate the severity of an outage and develop a scorecard that will list applications and services that must be continuously available, highly available, and those that fall into a normal recovery time frame. This video will review what a disaster event is, the importance of understanding recovery time objectives and recovery point objectives, the process of developing recovery plans, and how best to test recovery plans. Why do you need business continuity management? The Chief Executive Officer is responsible for providing business continuity, and that means protecting the company by developing recovery plans and implementing risk management controls. You must be able to preserve the business reputation and company brand through a disaster event. Too many firms have folded and closed their doors after a disaster occurred. Don't let your company be another failing firm. You must plan for natural and man-made disaster events through risks assessments and business impact analysis so that you can determine what has to be protected. How rapidly is a recovery required? Who are the people responsible for planning and enacting a recovery plan? How to test and document the recovery plan, and how to best provide training and awareness to stakeholders and participants. You must identify and eliminate risks to the company, its people, and resources. It is essential that your company adhere to regulatory and business requirements to maintain compliance. Eliminate any single point of failure so that contingencies can be automatically activated. Ensure continuity of business under catastrophic conditions. Integrate production, testing, validation, and continuous improvement into your recovery planning process. The 10-step process used to create business continuity plans is a tried and true way to create, test, and maintain recovery plans. The steps are: 1. Project initiation and management. 2. Risk evaluation and controls improvement. 3. Business impact analysis. 4. Developing business continuity strategies. 5. Emergency response and operations restoration. 6. Designing and implementing business continuity plans. 7. Awareness and training. 8. Maintaining and exercising business continuity plans. 9. Public relations and crisis communications. 10. Coordinating with public authorities. There are 7 phases to implementing business continuity management, which are shown here. They are: 1. Define management guidelines and goals. 2. Perform a risk assessment and define audit requirements. 3. Conduct a business impact analysis and define compliance needs. 4. Define strategy and automated tools for both recovery and compliance. 5. Create recovery plans, including emergency, crisis, business, and IT disaster plans. 6. Test, certify, support, maintain, improve, attest, and activate recovery plans. 7. Community relations, communications, speaking with a single voice, administration, and regulatory compliance. In today's environment, integrated risk management is a requirement because of the many functions performed in an organization. All of these functions are dependent upon each other and should be included in your risk management practice. The areas within a company where risk management should be performed are shown within this slide and include: 1. IT risk management. 2. Privacy management. 3. Vendor risk management. 4. Enterprise and operational risk. 5. Incident management. 6. Audit management. 7. Policy management. 8. Business continuity. 9. Ethics and compliance, and 10. Awareness and training. Some companies have incorporated a blockchain organization management concept called democratized ownership of organization via blockchain. Vendor risk management includes many, if not most, areas of an organization, from the person ordering equipment or software, through legal, human resources, vendor selection, delivery, receipt, infrastructure installation, and testing, to turn over to the recipient. Once installed, equipment is the responsibility of asset management, for monitoring and controlling installation, redeployment, and termination activities. The life cycle of a disaster event is depicted in this slide. A disaster event occurs, but there is a delay in time before the staff may notice it. Personnel should be trained to become more capable of identifying and analyzing a disaster event, so that recovery procedures can be implemented more rapidly. In the event of a building location disaster, such as a fire, first responders will be notified and they will take control of the scene when they arrive. Staff should be evacuated and a head count performed to ensure that all personnel are accounted for. Once identified, the disaster event is called into the help desk to determine which corrective actions should be performed. The help desk will initiate a contingency command center to address the disaster event through a predefined recovery action plan. Continuously available applications and services are automatically switched to the recovery site. Highly available applications and services have a delay before they can be switched to the recovery site, because their data has to be copied to the recovery site before the two systems are in sync. The delay in initiating the highly available application or service is due to the need to perform a forward recovery of the data that has been incrementally logged based on event counts or time periods. If a site is involved in the disaster event, then the first responders are called and they take control of the scene. At this point, it is essential that the company have their own security officers routed to the site to safeguard the building and the resources within the location. Once the first responders return the site, a salvage operation will start to clean up the disaster site and make the environment safe for inhabitation. The restoration staff then initiates actions to replace, or repair, the resources and make the site ready for the staff to return and pick up normal operations. Management will inspect the site to ensure it is operationally ready and that it is safe for the staff to return. If so, the staff will return to the original site in shifts to initiate full operational readiness. A post-incident review is conducted to define improvements that should be made to the recovery process. This slide explains the events associated with recognizing and reacting to a disaster event. When the disaster event occurs, it may take some time before the disaster event is recognized. This is called a threat analysis. Following the threat analysis, standard operating procedures are followed by conducting an impact analysis to define the extent of damage caused by the disaster event. If the disaster is a life-threatening event, like a fire, then an evacuation plan will be initiated and the first responders notified of the event. When the first responders arrive on scene, they will take control of the site, so it is important to have your company's security team dispatched to the site to protect the location and the resources contained within the building from looters or others who may steal equipment or cause further damage. Prior to performing recovery services, the standard operating procedures will include an executive decision window where the following actions are taken. 1. Incident awareness becomes evident. 2. A threat assessment is performed. 3. An impact analysis is conducted to define the extent of the damage and to determine if it is a life-threatening event requiring an evacuation of staff. 4. A capability review is performed to determine the extent of the damage and if partial continuation of work can be performed. 5. A cyclical event analysis is performed to determine if this type of disaster has been previously experienced and a recovery plan available to execute. 6. A determination of the available resources needed to perform recovery operations is used to determine if appropriate staff is available to perform recovery operations. At this point, the recovery plan is initiated and the recovery time window is opened, consisting of 1. Site recovery. 2. People safety. 3. Technology restoration, and 4. Business process restoration. All of these activities should be accomplished within the recovery time objective detailed within the business impact analysis previously performed. The major steps accomplished during this recovery process included: 1. Incident management plans. 2. Communications plans. 3. Asset recovery plans. 4. Service recovery plans. 5. Validation of recovery. 6. Business resumption. Developing the protocols and procedures needed to recover a business location due to a disaster event, from identifying the event, through reporting the event, and activating the recovery plans while safeguarding the people, is what recovery planning is designed to accomplish. Business continuity is comprised of best practices followed throughout the industry to achieve an optimum and safeguarded environment. This slide shows the components that make up a recovery plan and the best practices used to develop high-quality recovery plans. The business continuity plan development cycle includes: 1. Risk management and business impact analysis to define potential threats and define the recovery time objective. 2. Utilize configuration and change management to define the stakeholders associated with a recovery plan and the change management cycle used to maintain recovery plans. 3. Adhere to the systems engineering life cycle followed when developing plans and the user acceptance testing followed to validate recovery plans. 4. Follow the systems development life cycle used to implement recovery plans within the production environment. 5. Utilize continuous diagnostics and mitigation to capture cybercrimes and technology threats, and a security orchestration automation response product to combine cyber tools into a cohesive system to more rapidly identifying threats and cybercrimes that may require a recovery plan activation. 6. Drive to implement enterprise resilience and corporate certification to ensure recovery operations can be performed for all disruptive events, and that the company complies with all laws and regulations of the countries where it conducts business. 7. Integrate all company-wide security operations centers within an enterprise security operations center to better coordinate cybercrime and technology threat detection, that will lead to more rapid recovery, or avoidance, of cybercrimes and technology threats. 8. Implement an incident response and reporting system to create trouble tickets and route them to the individual best suited to repair the problem. Best practices include: 1. Creating a full range of recovery plans for all known situations and risk events. 2. Implementing continuous availability for critical services and high availability for second-tier services. 3. Follow the best practices shown in the lower right-hand box. These best practices are extensive and may already be performed by your company. Coordinate the implementation of these best practices with management and company peers to define the best path for your company to follow. Vendor management is becoming an important issue today, because any disruption in the supply chain can stop operations as quickly as a disaster event. For that reason, I am including this overview slide on protecting the company from supply chain interruptions. The 6 steps associated with supply chain vendor management are shown with subcategories listed below. The steps to follow when onboarding new vendors and integrating them within your company supply chain include: 1. Onboarding third parties, including providing a self-service portal, systems integrations, and bulk import procedures. 2. Leverage exchange to include a global risk exchange, pre-completed assessments, and product and service level granularity. 3. Assessment and review of vendor chasing services, custom assessments, and templates, and pre-license industry standard templates. 4. Mitigation of risks including automated risk flagging, inherent versus residual risk, and control tracking and treatment plans. 5. Monitor and offboarding services that include scheduled reassessments, breach, and enforcement tracking, and automated vendor offboarding should violations occur. 6. Dashboards and reports should be provided through a user-friendly dashboard, with granular and audit reporting included within the dashboard, and data lineage diagrams should be readily available. It is difficult to manage all of your vendors and suppliers manually, so it is recommended that an automated product be sought to maintain control over your suppliers and vendors and to guarantee the continuation of supplies during all situations. The data lifecycle is an important topic to understand when building and maintaining recovery plans, because not only resources have to be recovered, but most importantly the data must be available and current for the recovery to be successful. For this reason, I have included this slide. The first step in this 6-step process is data sensitivity, where data ownership, usage, and confidentiality is defined. This step is usually included as the first step in developing a new application or service. The second step is to define the category of the data, so its handling can be better performed. For example, programs do not change and are placed in a program library after production acceptance, while data libraries are constantly changed and require backup and recovery services that are tailored to the criticality of data. Continuously available applications will require that data be maintained in sync at the production and recovery facility, while highly available applications and services can have a delay related to performing a forward data recovery to become current. Data mining must be accomplished by having required data available and in a readily accessible format. For example, data associated with Splunk-like tools can be frozen when not in use and must be thawed and made ready before accessible. This delay must be taken into consideration when implementing data mining procedures. Data analysis is used to determine the criticality of current data and for defining accessibility to the data, or entitlements associated with role-based access control. Data has to adhere to confidentiality, integrity, and availability standards so that service-level agreements can be adhered to properly. Data reporting consists of knowing the capacity of your storage area and its performance. Growth should be monitored so that additional storage can be made available as needed. The mean time to failure and mean time to recovery of data should be monitored so that corrections can be implemented to make data more secure and available. Finally, data usage must be monitored to ensure it is safeguarded from unauthorized access and that it complies with asset management, infrastructure management, configuration management and other disciplines used to protect your data resources. Business continuity management protects people, resources, and data. The above process will allow you to identify critical data, its ownership, sensitivity, and protection requirements via backup and recovery and vaulting to adhere to vital records management practices. Business continuity management is divided into disciplines, each specializing in a specific area of recovery. These disciplines are listed in this slide, with the areas of responsibility provided below each discipline. Business continuity management supports 1. Business recovery management for business locations and to provide workplace safety and violence prevention. This is sometimes referred to as COOP. 2. IT disaster recovery management should a data center suffer a disaster event, or an applications or service experience a major outage. 3. Emergency management is concerned with natural or man-made disaster that may threaten life. Events like tornadoes, fires, or hurricanes, as well as terrorist activities are included in this category of recovery management. 4. Crisis management is concerned with events that may cause personnel injury like the COVID-19 pandemic that is currently affecting the world's population. All of these disciplines are considered under the umbrella of business continuity management. It would be best to define a common set of tools and a common language to express disaster events and respond to them, but it may not be totally possible because of the dissimilarity of the disciplines, but an effort should be made to allow for better cross-communications during a disaster event. The step-by-step process for creating continuity plans is shown in this diagram. They include 1. Project initiation, where management is solicited to provide support and long-term funding. An initial project plan is created from this step. 2. Perform a risk assessment, where the organization and its lines of business are examined to determine most critical services and programs. Applications are categorized and prioritized for recovery planning and exercising. 3. A business impact analysis is performed for critical areas and locations throughout the organization. This is usually accomplished via templates and questionnaires, with follow-up interviews to make sure information is complete. Training and awareness prior to performing the business impact analysis being performed is provided to all participants. A requirements definition is produced during this step where critical services are defined and categorized. 4. Develop recovery strategies based on the type of plan and the use of automated tools that are available or required to address the size of your recovery process. If you have thousands of recovery plans that must be created, it is best to use automated tools to plan and track activities and to adhere to your testing schedule. You will also have to integrate recovery planning within the development and change management process. Recovery planning is best achieved when it is integrated within the everyday functions performed by your staff. If recovery planning becomes an additional step outside of everyday functions, then it stands a very high chance of not being accomplished in an accurate and timely manner. The use of best practices that adhere to regulations and industry standards should be used to ensure accuracy of recovery plans. A recovery strategy position should be established as a result of this step. 5. Develop and test the recovery plan to ensure it addressed your needs and functions correctly. At this point, a complete project plan will be created for every recovery operation and a management presentation created to illustrate how you plan recovery operations. The use of new technologies and adherence to vital records management practices should be incorporated within this step to ensure the plan that is developed takes advantage of automated tools and ensures data is maintained in the currency needed to support continuously available, highly available, and normal recovery operations. 6. The final step in this process is to implement the recovery plan. This is accomplished by A. Scheduling a recovery certification test. B. Creating recovery exercise instructions. C. Developing a recovery planning guide. D. Defining the production test environment. You can use a snapshot of the production environment to test recovery plans in a sandbox prior to executing recovery plans in the current production environment. This will allow you to validate your plans without causing any potential problems. If your environment contains many remote locations, or clouds, then this process should be performed for each location to ensure that the recovery plan works and required resources are available. E. Integrate recovery planning within the everyday functions performed by personnel. F. Ensure recovery planning is included in version and release management for changes to the production environment. G. Ensure that business continuity planning is integrated within the development and maintenance cycles. H. Perform a recovery plan rollout to the production environment. This process will work for creating all recovery plans including emergency management, crisis management, business recovery, and IT disaster recovery. Workplace safety and violence prevention may have a different path to follow but should be accomplished for each business location. Recovery plan testing follows the pathway displayed in this slide. The questions of what to test, test categories, how to test, and defining the desired test results for all categories of recovery plans. The subcategories for each test phase are shown below the 4-step process and are self-descriptive. They include: for what to test, establishing the business recovery organization structure, defining risk management guidelines, including security testing for data and access controls. For test categories, performing data sensitivity testing and vital records management validation. For how to test, creating recovery plans for all necessary categories, ensuring that risk assessments have uncovered threats and properly implemented control to limit your exposures, including security testing within recovery plans to make sure your environment is continually protected. For desired results, ensuring the success of business continuity for all categories of recovery plans, ensuring that your risk assessments have successfully uncovered exposures and that implemented controls have limited your exposures, and testing that security requirements are in compliance and properly safeguard resources from unauthorized access. The complete recovery management life cycle is illustrated in this slide. It included the 7 steps in the recovery planning life cycle, which are: 1. Disaster declaration. 2. Business recovery. 3. Disaster recovery. 4. Salvage and restoration. 5. Command and control. 6. Damage assessment, and 7. Evolutionary improvements. Following these paths from right to left will provide you with an explanation of each step in the 7 processes. Steps 1 through 5 describe the steps performed for each recovery path, while Step 6 describes the post-incident review and damage assessment phase of the recovery life cycle. Finally, Step 7 will allow you to implement improvements within the recovery life cycle. With this approach, you will gain perfection in recovery planning through constant testing and implementing improvements as they are uncovered. Eventually, you will no longer encounter problems and your recovery plans will have achieved optimum performance. The systems development life cycle is illustrated in this slide, with testing being performed via VMware snapshots to additionally test critical services before they are introduced into the production environment. Additionally, real-time and periodic data backup and synchronization is shown so you can support continuously available and high-available applications and services. Development is initiated when the client provides end-user definition of sensitive data and how it should be handled in the production environment. The client will also define their needs for a business recovery facility to house its staff during a disaster event, and their requirement for a disaster recovery facility should an IT disaster recovery event occur. Providing this information will allow for product and recovery planning to commence. Applications and services go through development once, while maintenance is performed many times for problem corrections, enhancements, and new releases. Whenever updates go through change management, the recovery plan must be updated to support the new change, if necessary. This process is ongoing and is supported through IT service management, configuration management, and change management principles. The use of automated tools will help control this process and ensure that all steps needed to implement well-tested and recoverable services and applications are completed. Today, Agile is used to quickly add enhancements to applications and services. Agile also support dev/OPS and dev/SEC/OPS processes. It is shown here to illustrate how products and services are developed, maintained, and enhanced through the Agile process. The waterfall development life cycle is also shown to illustrate the differences between the two methodologies. In essence, both the Agile and waterfall systems development process follow the systems development life cycle described in the previous slide, so I will not spend too much time explaining them here. Disaster recovery plans are activated when the help desk is notified of a problem event that turns out to be a disaster event. When problems arrive at the help desk, they are reviewed and escalated if necessary. Level 1 problems, like lost passwords, or other minimal operations, are addressed by help desk personnel directly. Level 2 problems are escalated to the subject matter expert who owns the failing component. It is the SME's responsibility to resolve the problem, or issue. If the Level 2 SME cannot resolve the problem, then the problem is escalated to Level 3, which is the vendor who owns and supports the product. In cases where a disaster event is reported, the help desk will escalate the problem to the Contingency Command Center for resolutions. The Contingency Command Center manager will review the disaster event and select the recovery plan designed to address the event. If many disasters occur at the same time, then the Contingency Command Center will manage all recovery operations to the best of their ability, but may have to activate the Emergency Operations Center to gain management guidance and vendor assistance in addressing the major disaster event. The Emergency Operations Center is the last stand that a company will take in addressing major disaster events. It is an all-hands-on-deck type of operation, where major contributors from the key areas of the organization meet together to provide rapid responses to emergency needs related to a disaster event. The major areas of a company will be included in Emergency Operations Center activities, either on-site or via remote communications. The most important responsibilities attending the EOC are: corporate certification to ensure compliance to laws and regulations, information security management to make sure security is upheld during the disaster event and any uncovered weaknesses are addressed as quickly as possible, workplace violence prevention in the case of an active shooter or other disruption to personnel safety. The heads of the various lines of business should be available to the EOC staff. Emergency response management and first responders should be accessible to EOC personnel, as needed. Business continuity management will coordinate through the Contingency Command Center, but may be required to address the EOC staff. Business integrations, including infrastructure and facilities management, should be included in the EOC operations, and all command centers should report to the EOC staff during an emergency or disaster event. A single voice should be responsible for communicating the company's message to media, families, and other concerned individuals. Having a single voice will allow for a coordinated communications approach and hopefully not cause more problems through miscommunications or speaking with many voices.